Hi everyone, Iron Cameraman here. Notice how before starting work on episode 79, Boom didn't plan a third part at all, but in the end it came out. And that kind of hints that during production he decided to add a scene that was originally meant for episode 80. And what did we see? We saw a teaser for Speakerman Titan, but without Speakerman Titan himself, just like in episode 66. However, since Boom wanted to include that as an extra scene in the full version, but decided to show it now, that means something even cooler is being prepared for the full episode 79. And the most logical thing here would be, of course, to finally show Speakerman Titan's appearance, not just him screaming. But you might ask, why do I think the extra scene will be at the end of the full episode, and not somewhere in the middle or the beginning? Well, first of all, Boom always does it this way. For example, the end of part 2 of episode 69 looked like this, and in the full version, we saw the squad entering Alpha Hills. In the full version of episode 73, a new ending scene was added showing the room with surviving humans. And in the full episode 76, they added the scene where the cameramen were angry at the TV man. All of this isn't just for story purposes, it's also done to boost viewer retention. It makes the most sense to add an extra scene at the end to keep viewers watching until the very last second. That way, YouTube promotes the video more because the average watch time goes up. Episode 79, being the main connecting episode before the big 80th one, is definitely not going to be an exception. It instantly reminds me of that scene where TV Man Titan was shown at the base, rising up. However, in TV Man Titan's case, we first saw the teaser in episode 66, then saw him in full glory in episode 67, and only much later, in season 22, Boom showed that base scene, even though by then we had already seen him in action. Because of that base moment kind of lost its meaning. So, considering that everything's repeating almost exactly the same way as it did with TV Man Titan, maybe Boom won't show Speakerman Titan in the full version either. He might add something else at the end. And just like last time, we'll probably only see him in episode 80, and not necessarily in part 1. As for the base scene with Speakerman, Boom might only show that later, maybe around season 26 as an additional flashback. Even with Cameraman Titan, there was a similar pattern. In episode 49, he was just teased, and in episode 50, he already appeared in battle. I think it makes sense to introduce upgraded Titans this way for one simple reason. Let's be honest, the first impression of a new character is super important, and the best way to make it epic is to show them in the middle of an intense fight, not just chilling somewhere at the base sipping coffee. But not showing them at all wouldn't work either, so Boom found the perfect balance. A teaser where we don't see the full appearance, but we know they're coming soon. That keeps the audience hyped for the next episode. And while there's no doubt that Speakerman Titan will appear on the battlefield, there's one other character that really surprised everyone. I saw a Reddit post about him that said, "Imagine if Jeffrey came out of the Abyss dimension and entered our reality?" That's honestly a super interesting idea, but luckily or not, it's probably impossible. First, Jeffrey is basically a god inside the Abyss. He literally said it himself. Plus, the physics there are totally different from ours, so I doubt he could even move properly in our world. The first time we saw him, he appeared from above. He can either fly inside the Abyss or, as fan art suggests, be attached by some kind of web-like strands to the ceiling of the Abyss. You can think of it like a whale. In its ocean, it's huge and powerful. But once it's on land, it can't handle its own weight and literally explodes like a nuclear bomb. So yeah, I think Jeffrey's situation is kind of the same. He's been in that dimension for so long that at best he could maybe peek out for a moment and then go back in. So theoretically, he could stretch out a tentacle or a giant hand from the smoke, but that would be way too overpowered. That's why I don't think Boom will do something like that. A full appearance of Jeffrey in our world at this stage, based on what we know, is just impossible. Now I want to talk a bit about my own series. Honestly, I'm not sure if you'll be interested in me mentioning it sometimes in videos, so let me know in the comments, do you want that? Or do you prefer if we only talk about the original? I want to clear up some confusion. As you know, the third part of my Skibidi Toilet alternate timeline came out recently. It's actually the prologue to the multiverse. Turns out some moments weren't shown clearly enough and people got confused. Some didn't even realize who died when Cameraman Titan appeared from the smoke, or how he came out of the portal if he can't control teleportation. Many people, based on Cameraman Titan's new hands, guessed that Watchman of Doom was the one who died, killed off-screen by Juggernaut together with Cameraman Titan. Remember, in Part 2, Doom took him into the teleport. Juggernaut was on the Astro side, working with Doom on the mission to capture the Titan. But at the worst possible moment, Jugger betrayed Doom and switched to the Alliance because he wanted to join G-Man. Thanks to the suddenness of the attack, he managed to rip Doom's hands off and pass them to Cameraman Titan. In the end, Doom, without his hands, couldn't do much against Juggernaut and the Titan, so he opened the gates trying to escape, but it was too late. They finished him off, and that's why in Part 3 we first see his legs and then his body being thrown out of the smoke. Also, for those asking why the teleport opened right next to G-Man, the answer's simple. Doom was in a hurry trying to survive, so he opened the gate without thinking about coordinates. That's why the Abyss opened it in the same place it was last active, which, if you remember, is the same location from Part 2. Some also asked how the gate stayed open that long after Doom died. That's explained too. Jugger had a belt on his head like Astro UFOs in Episode 77, which allows portals to stay open. But in Part 3, the animator forgot to include that belt, and I noticed it too late, after release. Don't worry though, we'll fix that when the full version of the prologue comes out. Another mistake we had was with the lighting. Almost no light fell on Watchman of Doom's head, so when Polycephaly teleported him, you could barely see anything. We'll fix that too, and everything will be clearly visible. A lot of people also didn't get what happened at the very end. In short, those bombs that appeared on the fake Juggernaut during the fight were secretly planted by G-Toilet, and when the moment came, he detonated them. In the new version, we'll add a button in G-Man's hand to make it obvious, because right now, if you don't know the story, it might look like fake Juggernaut blew himself up. By the way, the fact that it was a fake could be noticed back in Part 2, when the POV showed a frame from Episode 65. And in Part 1, G-Toilet, after seeing a small fragment of the fake's head, immediately realized it wasn't his ally. And yeah, I want to show you a couple of frames with Cameraman Titan wearing Doom's hands that we made during production. Just look at it. He looks so brutal and badass with them. When I was writing the script, I never imagined they'd fit him that perfectly. And here's some new info. The full version of the prologue will have 4 brand new scenes, one of which is super important and will appear at the end. That's where you'll finally understand what kind of series we're preparing and what its concept will be. So, besides the improved third part, the prologue will include 4 to 5 additional minutes of new content, and on top of that, we'll announce the exact release date of Episode 1. Funny thing is, I haven't even told you the title of the series yet, but I don't want to rush it. You'll find out in the prologue itself. It'll be more fun that way. Also, I won't be analyzing my own series. That would be kind of weird since I already know all the plot twists. So if I do make videos about it, like today, they'll just be light updates without any big spoilers. At most, I'll point out small details worth noticing, but nothing too revealing. I want the series itself to give you things to think about, not me. Hope you didn't get bored with today's video. Let me know in the comments if I should sometimes do segments about my own series or stick strictly to the original. And while we wait for the full Episode 79, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the breakdown. See you soon!
Ready for battle? The Plunger Blaster is here. Load, launch, and fire. The Skibidi Toilet arsenal grows with the all-new Plunger Blaster in stores now.